leaders have met with Chinese President Xi Jinping and other top officials at a one-day summit to talk about trade and other global issues. Firefighters in Cyprus are battling the country's largest wildfires in over 50 years, which caused major destruction and claimed the lives of 2.
At recent peace talks with Russia, Ukraine's delegation stressed their top priority was a meeting between the Ukrainian and Russian presidents, as well as a real ceasefire.
European Union leaders have met with Chinese President Xi Jinping and other top officials at a one-day summit in Beijing. They discuss climate cooperation and global conflicts, but most importantly, the massive trade deficit with China. Xi called on China and Europe to deepen cooperation and mutual trust to provide stability. But Commission President Ursula von der Leyen pointed out that cooperation needs to be mutual beneficial and urged for a more balanced relationship with Beijing. Meanwhile, European Council President Antonio Costa called on China to use its influence over Russia to bring an end to the war in Ukraine. Von der Leyen and Costa were also expected to raise concerns over Chinese cyber attacks and espionage, its restrictions on the exports of rare earth minerals, and human rights issues in Xinjiang, Tibet, and Hong Kong. The talks were initially scheduled for 2 days. However, they were scaled back amid economic uncertainty, the wars in the Middle East and Ukraine, and the threat of US tariffs. Europe is also treading carefully, avoiding to move too closely at China in order not to antagonize US President Donald Trump, which further complicated the summit. Firefighters in Cyprus are battling the country's largest wildfires in over 50 years. The fires caused the destruction of many homes as well as the evacuation of dozens of villages. 2 people were also found dead in a burnt-out car on Wednesday night. The wildfires scorched at least 120 square kilometers of land and have destroyed just over 1% of the island's landmass. The blaze continued to rage into Thursday. A fire department spokesperson warned that strong winds and intense heat may further worsen the situation, which he said could potentially become very dangerous. While the cause of the fire is still being investigated, the chief fire officer told local media eyewitnesses who called the fire service had reported arsonists had caused the fire to break out at a landfill.
At their third round of recent peace talks with Russia, Ukraine's delegation stressed their top priority was a meeting between the Ukrainian and Russian presidents, as well as a real ceasefire. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has insisted that lower-level delegations like the ones at the talks in Istanbul don't have the political heft to stop the fighting.
Ukraine keeps insisting on a full and unconditional ceasefire as the necessary basis for effective diplomacy. We are ready for a ceasefire now and to start substantive peace negotiations. And it is up to the other side to accept this basic step towards peace.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has previously spurned Zelensky's offers of a face-to-face meeting. 2 previous rounds of peace talks in May and June led to a series of exchanges of prisoners of war and the bodies of fallen soldiers, but produced no other agreements.
The city of Odesa in southern Ukraine was the target of a major Russian drone attack on Wednesday night. The attack damaged several historic monuments in the old town, including UNESCO-protected landmarks such as the renowned Privos Market. A 9-story residential building was also struck and severely damaged, injuring at least 4 people. Dozens of residents had to be evacuated. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky denounced the attack, pointing to the fact it had come just a day after the third round of peace negotiations between Ukraine and Russia, which were held in Istanbul. The peace talks resulted in little progress, but Kyiv and Moscow did agree to yet another prisoner exchange. Zelensky added that Russia also launched attacks at other regions, including at the Cherkasy, Zaporizhzhia and Kharkiv regions. In Kharkiv, a massive attack resulted in the death of 3 people and at least 33 were wounded. Meanwhile, a Ukrainian drone struck an oil depot in Syria near the Russian city of Sochi. The Russian Defense Ministry claimed that they shot down 42 Ukrainian drones overnight.
A Russian passenger plane carrying 49 people has crashed, killing all on board after it disappeared off the radar over the Amur region in the country's far east. According to authorities, air traffic controllers lost contact with the passenger plane operated by a Siberia-based airline when it was attempting a second approach as it reached its destination.
Предварительно на борту находилось 48 человек. Самолет следовал по маршруту Хабаровск-Благовещенск-Тында. При проведении авиаразведки вертолетом Ми-8 в труднодоступной местности на склоне горы обнаружен фюзеляж самолета. К месту крушения следуют поисково-спасательные подразделения, аэромобильная группировка МЧС России. В главном управлении открыт телефон горячей линии.
The crash comes as aviation safety concerns grow in Russia as some long-range drone attacks by Kyiv have sparked travel chaos at Moscow's airports. Russia's Transport Investigative Committee says it has launched a criminal probe to determine the exact cause of the crash.
So the Buckingham Nicks album is, for music fans, especially that grew up in the 70s, it's one of those records that everybody has heard about, but not that many people have actually heard. It's never been on a streaming service, but it had this iconic cover that everybody recognized. You know, I mean, for so many people, it's this kind of great lost album that they've always wanted to hear, and they're finally going to get a chance to.
Columbia University says it has reached a deal with the Trump administration to pay more than $220 million to restore federal funding cut over alleged campus anti-Semitism. The university had already lost $400 million in grants and risked losing billions more. Under the agreement, Columbia will pay $200 million over 3 years, plus $21 million to settle claims of civil rights violations against Jewish employees after Hamas's October the 7th attack on Israel. The Trump administration said it cut funding over the university's failure to curb campus anti-Semitism during the Israel-Hamas war. Columbia was one of the first targets of President Trump's crackdown on pro-Palestinian campus protests. He accused the university of allowing harassment of Jewish students. But protest leaders and some Jewish students say the demonstrations were not anti-Semitic. They say they were protesting the Israeli government and the war on Gaza.
Para mim, esta fotografia resume muito aquilo que foram aqueles dias de grande alegria. Quando vejo este caminhão militar com os soldados lá atrás a manifestarem-se com as espingardas no ar, quando vejo os miúdos a fazerem o V da Vitória, o outro oficial à frente, dentro da cabine da carrinha também, a fazer o V da Vitória. Para mim é uma fotografia do ponto de vista da estética, da narrativa, perfeita. E acho que não há nada que esteja a mais nem nada que esteja a menos. Esta foi a chegada do primeiro navio de tropas da Guiné. E era incrível, as pessoas que esperavam os soldados, e era também notável como os soldados traziam uma t-shirt do Amílcar Cabral e do PAIGC, daqueles com quem tinham estado a lutar, pormenores do cinto com 2 pistolas cruzadas, e depois também traziam animais selvagens, portanto, o que era muito normal naquela altura, e as pessoas. Esta fotografia acho que é um retrato daquilo que era o povo português. Uma das fotografias que mais me sensibiliza é esta do Carlos Paredes, já feita em 1982, mas em que o Carlos Paredes, apesar de famoso e de protagonista da Revolução, continuava a trabalhar com manga de alpaca no Hospital de São José. Mas depois temos mais figuras. Uma que é a Amália, que não é muito uma figura do 25 de Abril, como sabem, ela até andou a bater tachos contra a Revolução, mas a verdade é que ela se integrou muito bem naquilo que foi, sobreviveu ao 25 de Abril, a sua obra sobreviveu, acabou por ser adotada também por aqueles cantores que compunham e cantavam as baladas de intervenção. Temos aqui estas 4 fotografias. Esta é uma das últimas que foi feita ao Álvaro Cunhal. Depois temos o Vasco Gonçalves, que eu fotografei em sua casa, já depois da loucura do PREC. O José Saramago, uma figura com que eu nunca simpatizei do ponto de vista pessoal. E acabamos com o Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa no seu escritório na Lapa, com o Fernando Pessoa como moldura.